Deku walks up the stage with Todoroki doing the same. Their eyes meet, Todoroki looking completely insane while Deku looks calm and collected. They stand in the middle of the ring, staring each other down before walking to their sides of the ring. Present Mike speaks, Todoroki versus Midoriya. Midnight shoots and the present Mike and the fight begins. Todoroki opening with a legitimate mountain of ice. Deku melting it, a huge hole in it before rushing at Todoroki again, sending fire shots in front of him to melt the oncoming ice. He flies higher, Todoroki beginning to send ice spikes below him. Present Mike introduces them, telling the crowd how Todoroki and then Desi about Todoroki and then Deku. Izuku Midoriya, Class 1A. His quirk is quite a strange one. I've known it for quite a while now. A randomizer quirk. Everyone in the stand starts mumbling. Present Mike speaks once again. Yes, yes, his quirk is what it seems. Every day without fail, his body randomizes and gives Deku one quirk. It can range from reality warping to being a cat. It's really that broad. Everyone murmurs louder. The kids. This kid's this good has and he only just got that quirk? What a monster. What the hell? Deku hears this, smirking a bit, his ego soaking this all in. He decides to push it. Why won't you use your fire, Todoroki? Todoroki snaps back. I won't use his quirk. Deku looks on the stand into the stands confused. Endeavor's your dad? Well, anyway, that's not his quirk. It's yours. It's the flame that I've If the flame I have is different from your father's, then so is yours. Type shit. Todoroki has a realization. Oh my god. He's spitting facts. His left side erupts with flames. Deku smirking. His newly awakened classmate posed a good challenge for him. Deku releases his flames full force. They flicker a faint blue before going deep red. Deku feeling the heat radiating off of both sides of the arena. Midnight and Cementos immediately jumping in. Deku and Todoroki jumping at each other as the entire stadium explodes. A cloud twice the size as in cannon would appear, everyone in the stadium getting blown back. Those in the front row actually getting lifted off the ground. The dust clears. Looking in the field, everyone goes silent until they see a single figure standing in the middle of the arena and the other one on the floor across the field. Deku looks up and puts his hand up proudly, his shirt half ripped. Everyone goes nuts. Deku is cheered on as he walks out the stadium, getting approached by Endeavor, but pushing him out of the way as he goes to the recovery room. He sat there for a while as the final fight is announced, Deku versus Bakugo. Deku walks into the field once again, everyone going straight crazy. People are fighting in the stands over who's going to win, people throwing thousands of dollars on gambling. It's going crazy. Deku and Bakugo stare each other down, Deku's flames igniting from his hands as Bakugo's explodes. Deku smirks. He wanted to beat Bakugo at his own game. The gun goes off and they both rush in. Deku using flames the same way Bakugo uses his explosions. They meet in the middle and start to exchange blows. Pause. Deku slips and counters most of Bakugo's, but Bakugo Loki keeps up a little bit. Deku pushing it up, 1 for all, 5%. He speeds up slightly. Bakugo notices this, explosions getting slightly bigger and bigger. They keep bumping it up. Deku keeping his flames locked onto his hands only. His hands burn with every use. He decides to finish it, doing like a howitzer impact, jumping into the air and spinning down as he uses flames, slowly and gradually making it hotter while he compresses it down. Bakugo jumps back, but it's too late. Deku throws a small sphere at him, landing right in front of his feet. Bakugo is straight blasted out, like this fireball hits the floor and expands. Bakugo got completely swallowed up and launched out of bounds. Deku didn't make it too hot, but he did make it powerful, as using one for all as a base. Deku once again stands tall, being declared the winner of the UA Sports Festival. Todoroki and Bakugo sit in defeat, both low-key not too bad about it. Deku proved himself to both of them. Todoroki got over his thing and Bakugo got a fair fight with Deku, who he believed was going full strength. He wasn't. Deku returns back to class after his win at the USJ. Unusually happy walking into class and seeing a folder on everyone's desk. He walks to his and sees his completely full. Isaiah explaining after they walk behind him. These are your internship opportunities. Pros from all over the world watch your performance at the sports festival and put bids on you. Everyone starts flicking through them. Deku doing the same until he comes across a single name. He already knows who to pick. Pulling up the paper before bringing it to Isaiah straight away, who smirks. The rest of the class goes on to pick theirs too, eventually separating and going their separate ways off of internships. Deku decided to go for Aizawa himself, hence the smirk. They trained together their whole life. Deku still thinks Aizawa is a better fighter than him any day, and will use any opportunity to get some extra training in. They trained together for a few days, going on patrols at night around the city, locking up thugs and some criminals. This day, the night is Stain incident though. Deku and Aizawa go out and patrol as usual. Deku this night getting a quirk that allowed him to earthbend pretty much. Running around, they would realize something's going on. Nomu and chaos filled the city all at once. Deku was sent one direction as Aizawa rushes the other. Deku being completely trusted by Aizawa at this point. Deku would earthbend some heroes out of the way of Nomu before yanking it from the sky and smashing it onto the floor. Continuing on, he would run past the pro heroes manual. He would be asking where Ida is. Deku remembered back, hearing about Ida. Deku remembered back, hearing about Ida's brother on the news. He knew what was up. He looked around, knowing he couldn't be too far. Running past narrow hallways and seeing him on the floor, almost for an instant. Oh, only for an instant. Deku earthbends himself around again, rushing down the alleyway while stomping his foot down. The ground beneath Ida sinks in and the walls next to Stain close in on him. Ida is rolled towards Deku who had Stain pinned in the earth. Stain uses his sword to cut free, running towards Deku before sending a sweeping slice towards his face. Deku dodges, meeting Stain down below, who was about to set up a counter. Deku touches the floor, sending a pillar up that uppercuts Stain before crumpling to dust. Deku spinning and kicking Stain square in the jaw, kicking some dust into his eyes at the same time. Then gets smacked by this two-piece combo and then slams against a wall, falling to the floor, knocked out. Deku grabs his scarf from behind his back and ties Stain up, taking all his swords away before locking him in a ball of earth. Ida wakes up and thanks Deku, saying it was stupid for him to go after Stain like that. Todoroki does run by, hearing the commotion and seeing the two of them, bringing Aizawa and Endeavor with him. They explain the situation and Endeavor takes the glory much like in canon. This time Aizawa not being as mad as he knew his life wasn't really at risk. He just did what he had to do. The internships are cut short and they return to class, being told about the finals instead. Deku groans about this. After the class being told that he didn't have to participate due to uneven numbers and the fact that his quirk that they actually held him back. Bakugo Bakugo in his timeline being paired with Todoroki, who with Bakugo's help would escape and not defeat All Might. After their wins or losses in the final exam, they are told to load onto the bus. They make their way onto the USJ. Deku would wake up one day with the quirk to see 500 meters in HD quality like in May. On the bus, he would hyper focus on small things like flowers and such on fields as they passed by. They would abruptly stop on the top of the mountain, Deku hopping out as the teachers and the cars meet up. As the teachers and the cats meet up, Deku would be looking around with his quirk, noticing a small building off in the distance. He squints, unable to read it. Aizawa notices this, telling the class flat out that they had to make their way there himself. Deku could be their guide. He pushes Deku off the mountain as he was looking at the camp. Deku plummets, cursing Aizawa as he fell. He saves himself as the rest of the students fall, being met with dirt. Deku already knowing this would lead everyone straight. Deku already knowing the way would lead everyone in a straight line towards it in one big group. The cats are impressed by this, the class getting to the camp in about an hour earlier than in canon. Deku seeing Koda but is too distracted, looking around with his quirk to approach him. They begin their training, Deku training with Aizawa once again on his physical state. Deku fighting the cats too. Unlike this, this is until the third and final night. Deku being blessed with Danger Sense quirk from One For All. Deku feels nostalgic using this quirk, remembering back to the talk he had with his predecessors. He walks through the forest doing this scary activity. Deku walking in alone suddenly gets a jolt of pain in his head. He stumbles back a little bit before rushing back to Aizawa, warning him something was up before rushing back in. Aizawa nodding and running the other direction. Deku goes to his classmates, seeing various villains on the way. He could send a cheeky smash or two at them, knocking them straight out. Deku then comes up against Bakugo and Todoroki, letting them handle Moonfish as he slips by and tames Dark Shadow. He then gets another jolt with pain in his head, his neck instinctively turning to where Coda was located. His mind raced as he rushes off, jumping 100% through the forest onto the mountain. He intercepts Muscular as he's mid-punch, catching it and redirecting it, throwing him into the sky. He looks at Coda and smirks before jumping into the sky, sending 1 punch, 2 punch, 3 punch, 4 punch, and 5 punch right into Muscular's gut, sending a huge right foot kick and sending Muscular back to reality. He slams onto the floor half dead, Deku picking up Coda and rushing him to the cats. Once he drops him off though, he feels a strange feeling in his gut before a sharp pain takes over his head. Something super bad was approaching. Deku looks around, telling everyone to stay on guard before jumping into the air. Time 11:57 p.m. New quirk 3 minutes away. He looks around in the air, looking for a full 30. Where was he? Who was he? He saw him. A small man walked from the forest, pale with white hair. He stares at Deku, those eyes. He'd seen him before. Shigaraki leaps at Deku, Deku's head throbbing as he dodges midair. It was the guy he slammed into the wall. What happened? Shigaraki keeps playing chase, bouncing around and slamming his hand indiscriminately over the floor. Pro heroes and teachers rush away as the floor begins to crumble beneath them. They all grab the students and dip. Deku looking at Shigaraki, the damage he's caused. He lunges at him, Deku sending a huge right midair. Shigaraki dodges easily, holding his hand out. Deku's head throbs again, activating full cowling 100% as Shigaraki clenches his fist. A telekinesis quirk. He's thrown onto the ground, slamming as a huge gaping hole appears. Aizawa watches in horror, cancelling his quirk, Shigaraki beginning to fall. Deku shaking this off would jump up, capitalizing. Now you're finished. He sends a right, his hand going completely through Shigaraki's chest. Shigaraki coughs up blood before smiling and laughing. He melts away into mud, another Shigaraki following not far behind him. 11:59. Time till new quirk, 1 minute. Deku thinks to himself, this guy has multiple quirks. A clone quirk, a telekinesis quirk, a strength quirk, and a decay quirk. Deku knows this won't be easy. Bumping up to 80% one for all, him and Shigaraki clash. Their vestiges getting closer and closer. 30 seconds. Deku and Shigaraki explode off each other, pushing it to 100%. They rush again. Punches, kicks, bites, everything. It's a massacre. Deku breaks an arm. Shigaraki regenerates it. 15 seconds. Deku was done with this charade. His head was hurting. His quirk going into overdrive. Deku jumps back, fist ready, clashing once again with Shigaraki. Sparks fly. The wind stops, silent, before boom, big ass explosion. The teachers and students look back as a huge gust of wind comes their direction. What the hell was happening? Deku lays on the floor. 3, 2, 1. His quirk for the day, all for one. Deku sits up, feeling strange. His fascination for quirks turns into an almost hunger. He looks at Shigaraki, Shigaraki looking back. They lunge at each other, this time Deku putting his hand on Shigaraki. All for one boosted by one for all with just another level of powerful. Deku would take every quirk Shigaraki had in an instant, not even realizing it, but taking his life force away too. Shigaraki collapses to the floor, having been taken of his quirks and 5 years of his life. He felt great, but not satisfied. Jumping back into the air, he would look around for any lingering villains before being touched on the back of the head by something. Everything gets black. His mouth fills with a strange black fluid, and Deku is teleported away. Aizawa looks on in horror at the scene he'd just seen. All for One takes Deku away, pulling him through the warp gate before slamming him onto the floor. Irritated that Deku took something that he had been working on for a while, All for One stares Deku down. Deku looks up at him. He recognizes him, though he didn't feel powerless this time. All for One puts his hand out, trying to steal Deku's quirk. Deku meets All for One's hand with his own. All for One and One for All merge, stealing every single quirk All for One had inside him, leaving All for One a shell. Deku feels powerful. Nothing but power. Raw power. But what does it mean? His quirk changes tomorrow. That's a story for another day.